the season finale, Drive to Survive, Season 4, Episode 10, Hard Racing. Let's get into the review because there's lots to digest. Honestly, this episode brings it all back to the close, and it's phenomenal what we experienced throughout this entire episode. Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, toe-to-toe, head-to-head. And, you know, for a season that was so good in terms of competition, rivalry, tension, the way it ends, it does leave you in a bit of a like, what is going on? What has happened here? Surely, like, you know, nobody wants to win titles this way. What's great with what Netflix do is that they still manage to keep that suspense, that tension, even though that this season just about finished and we're still digesting it. Watching it all at the beginning again, I'm honestly, the pit in my stomach, the butterflies I was having throughout the time, I felt very, very nauseous, very, very sick. I didn't know what to do. And then they sprinkle little bits around this rivalry. So you've got the Yuki Tsunoda situation where he's grown so much, he's been doing really, really well, and over time he's progressed and he's got better. And then you've got the battle between McLaren and Ferrari, which they didn't actually tell us how it ended, but they kind of teased it. In qualifying, somehow, some way, it looks like the Red Bull is struggling. It doesn't seem to like this circuit too tough. It's always been a Mercedes dominant circuit, and last year, if you remember, in Drive to Survive, when Max Verstappen wins in Abu Dhabi, Christian Horner sort of says, you know what, that's the start of something to come, because it was always Mercedes who won that circuit. But this time around, if a Red Bull could win it, then it meant something. So fast forward to the following year now, which is where we are, and it's incredible how the Red Bull was struggling for pace. Hamilton had it on P1, and somehow, some way, the way that they kind of positioned it, again with the jeopardy for Red Bull, Max Verstappen nicks pole right at the death, and he starts in pole position for the race. The Red Bull garage cannot believe it, but it's advantage Max. Then you get a little bit of a glimpse on Sergio Perez. There's like an after party kind of after the qualifying session, which I thought was quite strange the day before a championship decider. Now, whether that's just like a Red Bull thing, whether it's like a partnership kind of hospitality party thing, it looked like it was that. You only saw Red Bull drivers as well as the AlphaTauris. It was quite strange, and I thought, that's a bit weird. But anyway, Perez is mentioned in this moment about how much of a good teammate he is, because when it came to the race, some of the defending that Sergio Perez was doing in that race, he is a massive factor as to why Max Verstappen won the title. I love seeing the vulnerability between the two team principals with Christian Horner and Toto Wolff. The way that Christian Horner's sort of worried about his drivers, get them some sleep, have they eaten, get them to bed. This is like during the party because there's a big race on tomorrow, of course, and you can sort of start to see from both people, you know, when they're talking to their kids, from when Horner's talking to his kids, his wife, and same with Toto, there's that human side of them. They're very, very similar. You know, they're both here for one reason and one reason only, to win championships. And so when it comes to that moment, you know, Will Buxton kind of sort of says that, you know, they're so similar that they wouldn't even dare to admit, but they're quite similar. And it was just sort of good to just see this piece. When you lay it all back, at the end of the day, they're just human beings, and it's easy as rivalries and fans of sport to treat people and to treat them as if they're just like they're either evil or whatever else. They're human beings at the end of the day. You get these pep talks from Christian Horner to Max Verstappen saying, look, you've been brilliant all year, go out there and do what you do best. And Toto's talking about Lewis, about how he's been in the years and how he's been when he's been a Mercedes driver, how brilliant he is. And it's amazing that Lewis has that hunger still, even with title number 7 in the bag, that he still wants to go out there and win that 8th title. There's a mentality of these athletes that they have, which is just, honestly, it's completely out of this world. Only the special really attain that level of mentality. In the race, Hamilton straight away, he's very good at the start. He's always overtaking Max Verstappen at the start of the race when the car is good, and obviously he goes into the lead. Then as the race goes on, Max Verstappen ends up in front. I think they've changed tyres. I can't remember how the overtaking took place, but it wasn't like back-to-back battling, nothing like that. But Lewis Hamilton then comes and overtakes Max Verstappen by cutting the corner. And, you know, you think, okay, well, we've had it in previous races that the position is given back. But on this occasion, only the gap, the advantage that was made was what was given back. So it kept Lewis in front, which was very, very suspect. And I totally forgot about this, and I don't know why I forgot about that. But, you know, with like, you know, Formula One Twitter world and all that, everyone's very, very, you know, very strong on Hamilton being sort of like oh my God, he's been, injustice and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, hang on a minute. We have to remember there was another moment there for Max, because even Max was sort of like, well, typical in it. Of course, they're not going to give me the decisions. And it's funny because both teams, I think that way. They think that the other team's being favored, and it's, up for us to really debate who gets more favored than the other. It's probably fairly balanced, but when you sort of watch this race go on, you just think to yourself, oh my God, the FIA, to make the decision that they made regarding the safety car is just unbelievable. But we'll get there. Christian Horner's talking to Sky Sports F1 at the time on team radio sort of thing, and saying, look, the time is ticking, we're going to need a miracle. And the next scene Netflix cut to is Nicholas Latifi, and if you didn't watch the season, you're thinking, well, what are we doing here? Get us back to the action that we came to see. But of course, it's an important moment. Latifi and Schumacher having a bit of a battle going on there. Then Latifi, I think, hits into the wall. He spins out, he hits into the wall, and it kind of brings the safety car out, where Max pits in very early, gets on some brand new fresh tyres, but he loses track position because of all the lapped cars and so on and so forth. It got a bit messy. Lewis Hamilton stays out on track, and of course he's on the older tyres, and the gap separating Hamilton and Max Verstappen is 4 or 5 unlapped cars. Now, usually under the safety car, you get rid of all the unlapped cars, make sure they unlap themselves and they get back into the right position. But on this occasion, they said, we're not going to let the cars unlap themselves, which was like, hang on a minute, this is ridiculous. And Horner gets on the radio saying, look, why can't we do this? You only need 1 lap to race. And I don't know if that kind of triggered something in Michael Massey's head, whoever makes the final decisions, and whatever the stewards were thinking, we don't know. But all of a sudden a decision is made, not to let all the cars go through, but just to let half of the grid, if you will, between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, whatever those cars were. Only they could unlap themselves. And the cars behind Max, who thought we can unlap ourselves, were being told, no, hold position, stay there. And they're all confused. Lance Stroll's confused. I can't remember who else is in that mix, but Norris being told to go, make sure you pass them. It was just all a bit weird. It was all very, very hectic, very, very confusing, but it was very, very odd, very, very strange. All the favour went into Max Verstappen because it was only half that grid. And reliving it, I was like, man, because at the time, I really wanted Max to win the title just because I wanted to see better competition, more, just for the sport, for the sake of the sport. Nothing against Lewis, nothing against Mercedes. They've been dominating for years and years and years, and I just wanted to see a great title race. And by the way, I'm a McLaren fan, so yeah. But as you know, Lewis is starting to see this unfold before his very eyes. He's asking what the hell is going on here, and he knows that Max Verstappen is now right behind him on fresher tyres. Before even the safety car's gone in, he's shaking his head because he knows he has been royally screwed over. It was all too much for me to watch. The music, the kind of music that they used here for this piece was epic because it brought it all back. I had a pit in my stomach. I felt like throwing up. I couldn't breathe. It was all too much tension. Too much was going on. And I think I'm from the standpoint of, because I'm not necessarily a fanatic of either one, like I've got my own team. So watching it from the sort of neutral base, it was kind of like I could appreciate both sides of the story. I could appreciate feeling one way or another towards either team, because I'm watching Horner win this. I'm watching Max Verstappen win this title race. Horner's emotions, the tears, the unbelievable elatedness, Max Verstappen crying because a miracle needed to take place, and it's exactly what happened. And then it was like you could add, if you're a Mercedes fan, you might say, well, hang on a minute, a manipulation took place, and fair enough. I'm talking a miracle from Red Bull standpoint, because they shouldn't actually have won this race when you kind of think about it. But then again, we go back to the situation where Lewis doesn't give up the place; he's only giving up the gap. So both can make arguments there. But at the end, where you see the tears from Christian Horner, the tears from Max Verstappen, and it's all a bit much. It's crazy, like the euphoria. I'm feeling every emotion with them. And then it cuts to Lewis, and I'm watching Lewis and I'm like, this is heartbreak. This is utter heartbreak. Toto Wolff, I think, is beside himself. He cannot believe what's going on. He's constantly on the radio. Lewis Hamilton, I don't even know what he's like in that car. That moment where he gets to Parc Fermé after the race and he just stays in the car, and it's like he doesn't even move or anything. And I'm sitting there like, oh my God, this is unreal. What on earth is going on? Imagine a title that is snatched away from you at the last lap is basically what happened. And you're sitting there thinking like, Lord, what world am I living in? What is going on? Hamilton starts recollecting the memories of he's always had a target on his back, and literally somebody's come out here to just take away this title from me. You can appreciate both sides for sure. A roller coaster of emotions. I mean, it was so much. Like, it's funny because I think at this moment in this race, like, it wasn't about, Mercedes versus Red Bull. It was about the FIA, and why did you come to that decision? What on earth is happening here? And this is from the standpoint of Mercedes. Toto Wolff is beside himself. He cannot believe it. And the moment with Lewis and his dad, and that it really hit me emotionally there. And just seeing some of the drivers come up to him, like Sebastian Vettel, patting him on the back, giving him a speaking to, and it was quite interesting to see how Lewis always avoided the cameras because God knows what the emotional state he was in. I really wanted to see his eyes. I tried to look through the visor when he just stayed in Parc Fermé, and you could barely see anything. And then still had the courage and the strength to actually congratulate Max Verstappen. He does the interview, of course, afterwards, and he says, congrats to the team, congrats to Manchester United, congrats to the team, congrats to Max Verstappen. He's done, the team have done well. They've won the title. And I was just thinking, really? A part of me was like, there's no way he could be feeling this way. But then, that moment with his dad, I wonder if his dad just said, look, you have been done over here. We know this, but keep your pride, keep your character, show some, I'm making this up, but I can imagine the way that he was talking to him was just sort of like, remember who you are kind of thing. And it was just an epic moment. I definitely would love to talk about that situation with Lewis and his dad, because honestly it just looked like a moment that Lewis needed. If there's anybody in the world he needed the most, I think his father is probably the one that's brought him here into this sport. And the fact that he could get up there and still show his congratulations with Max Verstappen, I think a respect on another level for me on Lewis Hamilton has gone beyond. And I think Max Verstappen as well has also seen that. Toto Wolff at the end, he says he didn't even watch the Max take the finish line because I think he cannot believe what is going on, what has happened. And he, it's ironic, he puts on this, sort of the next clip, you see the next day where he's got this black, he's wearing all black basically, like I think it's a black turtleneck and a blazer. And he's basically saying like, if you think that this is what, this is going to, make us be more and more determined next year. And I think the producer was saying, will there be a target on Red Bull's back next year? And he said, it will be a target on everyone's back. And that's how it ends. And I'm thinking, wow, again, a gripping comment to keep you informed, to keep you hooked for next season's Drive to Survive season 5. I mean, I can't believe there will be a season 5, but nonetheless, it's been so, I can't believe how quick this has happened. But what a way to end it. I mean, you relive every single emotion, and then, with a sober mind and a much cooler head, where you're looking at all the pieces in the puzzle. I mean, Michael Massey doesn't cover himself in glory by just saying it's about racing, because he kind of doesn't show any remorse in a weird way. And later on down the line, in real time, he loses his job as the FIA director there. And it's just such a shame because he doesn't make the only decision. Like, there's a team of them that make that decision. Now, whether all of them have gone, even this idea of like always talking to the FIA, talking to the FIA directly, I think, look, great entertainment for us to watch, but it's very, very sketchy because, maybe we've only got one lap to race from Christian Horner. Maybe that's what makes Michael Massey's mind, who knows? But like, he didn't need that. And I felt sorry for Michael Massey at the end because he's having to make a decision in the heat of the battle, in the heat of a moment. Personally, just red flag the race, let everybody go in, let everyone change their tires, do their thing, come back out, and let's go for one final lap. That's a great way to end the season. I understand ending the season under a safety car would have been ridiculous, and maybe ending the season without the cars being unlapped would be ridiculous. Get them all out the way because it saves you this trouble that Michael Massey had to face. But what an epic season, what an epic episode, and my goodness, everyone's got a target on their back next year. Watch out for Mercedes in 2022.